Hey, well, welcome back to another episode of Rad Repairs. Today's a special episode because I'm going to take some games that I have that are in need of a little bit of TLC, and we're going to tear them apart, show you how I clean them. Sometimes we got, a game that only works 80% of the time. You tear it apart, you clean it, and you can get it to work, 95, 99% of the times. And sometimes games that don't work at all, especially these NES cartridges and people that like to blow in them and ends up destroying their connectors a little bit from all the moisture and everything. The games that just don't want to work at all, and sometimes a good cleaning and scrubbing will make them work 75% of the time. So first thing we're going to do is tear these apart, except for my Atari cartridge here, and then we're going to show you how I clean the contacts, and then we'll talk about how we get off magic marker and what we're gonna do about this poor 007 cartridge. The sticker is falling apart. Let me talk about this Atari cartridge real quick because I went ahead and peeled the sticker off of this, and I've actually already gone ahead and opened this up and cleaned it. It's just a couple of Phillips head screws, and it's got the same type of metal contacts that these other cartridges have. But I just wanted you to see that to actually take these apart, you have to take the sticker off. So this one was already fallen off. I could give you kind of a good representation of what it looked like. It was basically like this when I got it. So it's a pretty good sticker. It's obviously got some wear, but we're going to keep it because it's intact. And I'll show you how I put that on here in a little bit. So let's go ahead and take this NES cartridge apart. And it's just going to be your 3.8 millimeter game bit. And you can pick those up on Amazon or eBay, wherever you like. So here's your game PCB. I'm just gonna pop that right out. And I like to use a couple of different tools for this normally, depending on how dirty it is. This one actually looks pretty good. And I know this game does work. It's got a little spot there, but it looks like that's probably just a little bit of damage on the PCB there. It's not too bad. So I like to use Goo Gone. Now I know most people probably don't use this unless it's for some sort of adhesive or something, but I find that it's actually really non-abrasive. So even on the back of the old cartridges, they tell you, don't use alcohol or anything. Well, honestly, alcohol does work pretty well. But in a non-abrasive way, I think Goo Gone works pretty well. You can use alcohol or any other household cleaner. I do recommend using a soft cloth for this. I've got this little old glasses cloth here that I repurposed to clean games. And a little bit of Goo Gone goes a long way. So I'm really just going to put a little tiny piece there, kind of double up my fabric, and we're just going to scrub that down in here. Alright, so once you've got it cleaned, you can take another cloth and just go ahead and a dry cloth, and go ahead and get the excess Goo Gone that's on there and just take a look at it. Make sure it's nice and dry. And we're going to do the same thing to 007 over here. Now this one has a Phillips shield on here, so we're going to take that off as well. And the PCB just pops out. Slide the cover off there. And the same thing. Alright, now 9 times out of 10, that'll make a broken game work again, and that looks pretty darn clean. So this, despite the fact that particular cartridge doesn't look so good, the PCB looks pretty clean. Now while we have them taken apart, especially for this one, we've got to get this sticker off. Now since we've got Goo Gone, that's probably what I'm going to use again, but we're also going to clean the outside of this. Now usually I use just a disinfecting wipe, a Lysol wipe will work. You can use any other household cleaner. I recommend nothing with bleach. Alright, so usually when you've got a sticker this bad, the first thing I try to do is decide whether to keep it. In this case, I've decided not to keep it. So I went on Google and did a search for GoldenEye 007 N64 cartridge and clicked on images until I found one that I thought would work. I took it into Photoshop and basically just made sure it lined up properly. I even scanned this so that I could take this image and stretch it out a little bit. It's a little bit different on proportion, but not too bad, but you can tell the color came out really well. And this is just a standard photo paper that you can get anywhere, and printed it out in as high quality as I could. It's a nice kind of a glossy coat, just like the original would have been when it was new. And it's a relatively durable piece of paper, not a flimsy printer paper by any means. So the first thing we're going to do is try to get this sticker off. Now my first attempt is going to be just to try to get my finger in here and seeing if I can get any of this to pry up. And as you can tell, it's pretty hard. It's not going to just give up. So we're going to try heat. So when you're using heat on plastics, you need to be very careful because you can melt the plastic. I have a Wagner heat gun here. It's got two settings, low and high, and we're gonna leave this on low the entire time. We are gonna be pretty direct on the sticker, but you wanna be careful around the edges so that you don't actually melt the plastic of the cartridge. As you can see, a little bit of heat makes that sticker wanna really come off. So I'm getting the sticker away from the edges of the actual area where this new sticker, or new label I should say, is going to go, so that I can use a razor blade underneath of where it's going to go to get the rest of the sticker off. So you can see the heat really does help. Alright, we've gotten the bulk of the sticker off, and we're actually going to go ahead and take our glue gun again, and we're going to hit it pretty good. And I'm going to move this off to the side and let that sit for a few minutes. In the meantime, let's take a look at our Excitebike cartridge that someone, I don't know who, has written all over this cartridge in a permanent marker. Now that is a problem. And you see this all the time with these NES cartridges. You know, Brad Jones didn't want his Excitebike copy getting stolen, so he'd write his name on it. Sometimes the video stores, the rental stores, would put their video name on there. Well, how do you get this off? And there's a lot of different schools of thought. But a good buddy of mine named Ben turned me on to the idea of using, of all things, Rain-X. Yep, Rain-X, the same stuff you put on your windshield to get the rain to just slide right off, is what we're actually going to use to get this magic marker off. I'm really going to open it and just pour it straight on there. I'm not going to soak it or anything, but I'm going to just put enough to cover the writing. And you can already tell that it is permeating that marker, and you can kind of see it moving around, sort of trippy looking. All right, and it doesn't take long. You can leave it on longer for the ones that are tough. Depending on how hard you scrub too, you need to be careful, especially when you're using gold carts like the Zelda carts, because you can take some of the gold paint off. So we've had that on there for a little bit now, and look at that. And this is not movie magic. There's no edits in here. It really just comes right off. That's pretty amazing. And about 9 times out of the 10, that'll work. That quickly. So if you've got magic marker, that's what you want to use. So now we're done with our Excitebike. We can go ahead and put that back together. There you go, nice and clean and ready for your NES toaster. So what we're going to do for Pitfall is try to re-adhere this original label back onto the cartridge. We're going to use some painter's tape to outline the area that we're going to spray. And we're going to use this Elmer's all-purpose spray adhesive. It works really well. It dries quickly. It doesn't soak into paper. But we're gonna do a trick with it though when we apply it, and I'll show you what we're gonna do here in a minute. So let's get our tape around our area where our sticker is gonna go. Alright, our cartridge is all taped. I'm going to put this mat down here for some overspray. Get our glue on here. Okay, you want to try to get an even coat if you can. Alright, now the trick to this stuff is to let it sit for a little while. You don't want to put the paper directly on it because it will soak up a little bit through the paper. So we're going to give that a couple of minutes. While that's setting up a little bit, let's take a look back at our 007 cartridge, which has been soaking in our Goo Gone. Should be ready to clean off. Take some paper towels here and see what comes off. Alright, that's pretty good. So you can see there's a little bit of scratching underneath where I had the razor blade under there, but it's going to get completely covered by the sticker, so that's not an issue. So now that we've got all the sticky residue on here off, let's go ahead and clean this cartridge all the rest of the way up. Alright, that's looking pretty good. So now we need to tape off our area for our new label for 007. I'm going to add a little bit of paper to the edges here, since our tape's not going to reach the entire edge. Yep, that should work. A nice even coat. Same thing, we're going to let this one sit for a little while too. And while that one sets up, let's get our Pitfall cartridge back here. Should be ready to go. You can feel a little bit, still going to be nice and tacky. And we'll just line our paper up and get it back on. Cloth has given us a little bit of more even pressure than finger tip presses will. I don't want to rub too hard because it will bring off some of the paint of this old cartridge. Alright, well I think that looks as good as it's going to look. So not bad. I think it went on really well. Let's take a look at our 007 cartridge. Looking good, Pierce. Alright, let's get our N64 cartridge back together. And there you have it. 3 nice and clean and restored games with new label, saved old retro label, and a cleaned up cartridge. Hey, I hope you liked this episode of Rad Repairs. Don't forget to like and share the video. And if you would, please subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next time on Rad Repairs.